Medieval farmers watched in horror as their golden wheat turned skeletal yellow and harvests vanished. Starvation loomed, but they discovered a deadly secret hiding in their own fireplaces. Wood ash could resurrect dead soil. How did they turn fire's dust into agricultural gold that still works today? In the heart of old Europe, long before modern plant food and farming science, farmers faced a big problem that kept coming back. Land that once grew beautiful golden wheat and thick green barley would start to fade after years of planting. The plant stems grew skinny, leaves turned yellow, and harvests got smaller and smaller. Back then, when staying alive depended completely on what the earth could grow, this was a very serious problem. There was a cure. One so simple it came right from the fireplaces in their own homes and the big bonfires that lit up village nights. Farmers discovered that the gray dust left behind after burning wood could bring life back into the soil. This was called ash dressing. It was a way of farming that mixed what they needed to survive, what they watched happen, and hundreds of years of trying things out, into a powerful tradition that could save dead earth. Today, even in our modern gardens, this old world trick still works. Medieval farmers were smart about using everything they had. They lived in a world where nothing got thrown away. Every winter, fires burned all the time in open fireplaces. Out in the fields, brush and unwanted wood were often piled up and burned to clear space for planting. Over time, villagers started noticing something amazing. Wherever the ash from these fires fell, plants seemed to grow taller, greener, and stronger. What first seemed like just a lucky accident became something they did on purpose. They collected wood ash and spread it over tired fields as part of taking care of the soil each season. This way of farming had roots in even older farming traditions. Ancient Romans, for example, wrote about using ash in grape gardens to make the soil sweeter and grow better grapes. Viking settlers brought this habit to the windy farmlands of cold northern countries. By medieval times, ash dressing was well known all across Europe, from the hills of Scotland to the fruit orchards of France. Wood ash is much more than the dusty leftovers of burned logs. It is a packed storehouse of minerals that the tree pulled up during its whole life. Potassium, calcium, magnesium, and tiny amounts of other elements like boron and manganese all survive the fire and stay in the ash. These are exactly the nutrients that soils lose after years of growing crops over and over without putting anything back. In the acidic, rain-soaked soils of medieval northern Europe, another special quality of ash made it super valuable. It could raise the pH level. Much like lime, ash makes things less acidic. When spread over sour soil, it balanced out too much acid, creating conditions where many more types of crops could grow well. But the benefits went even deeper. Balanced pH levels helped soil microbes. These are tiny workers you cannot see that are essential to moving nutrients around. This tiny life coming back often meant fields got back not just chemical fertility, but biological life too. Medieval ash dressing was not done randomly. Villagers often collected fireplace ash over the winter, storing it in bins or barrels to keep it dry. When early spring came or after autumn harvest, they would carry it to the fields in sacks or baskets. The ash was scattered by hand, thrown in wide curves across the surface. In some places, farmers lightly raked or worked it into the soil, making sure it mixed with the soil before rain could wash it away. How much to use was learned through experience rather than careful measuring. Too little and the soil saw little change. Too much and the land could become overly alkaline, especially in naturally neutral soils. On light sandy ground, ash often worked wonders. On heavier clay soils, its effects took more time to show. In orchard lands, a ring of ash was sometimes placed around the drip line of fruit trees to feed both the soil and the tree's root area. Fire was more than just a leftover product here. It was part of the renewal. When brush and crop leftovers were burned in the open, not only was ash made, but pests and weed seeds in the debris were destroyed. This cleared the way for the next planting. Sometimes controlled burns were used directly on patches of worn-out soil, leaving a fresh blanket of ash right where it was needed. While we now understand the environmental limits of such burning, in medieval times it was an effective way to recycle organic matter and minerals back into the earth. Today, the ideas behind ash dressing are just as useful as ever, though they work best when adapted to a careful, smaller-scale approach. In a home garden, wood ash from a fireplace or wood stove can be a free and powerful soil improver. However, it must be used with knowledge and care. Gardeners can sprinkle small amounts, about a handful per square meter, over vegetable beds in winter or early spring. Mixing the ash into the soil makes sure that its nutrients spread evenly and that its alkalinity is not too strong. On grass lawns, a light dusting can make the grass greener and encourage clover, just as it did hundreds of years ago. Ash can also be especially helpful for crops that like potassium, such as tomatoes, beans, and root vegetables. People must also know what ash should not be used for. Acid-loving plants like blueberries, rhododendrons, and potatoes often get hurt if the soil around them becomes too alkaline. Also, ash from treated or painted wood should never be used because it can contain harmful leftovers. Modern soil science gives us a deeper understanding of why ash dressing brought back productivity so well. The minerals it contains feed not just plants directly, but also the diverse, tiny communities that make soil a living system. Bacteria, fungi, and earthworms all respond well when soil acidity is balanced and minerals are available in the right amounts. In medieval times, this connection was understood only through watching what happened. Richer-smelling earth, looser texture, and the sudden return of worms were all signs the land had healed. Ash dressing was not just a technical solution. It became part of farming folklore. Sayings about the value of ash can be found in many European languages. In England, one saying went, "Ash is in February worth a load of dung." Such wisdom showed centuries of trial and success. Even when chemical fertilizers appeared in the 1800s, many small farmers kept a place for ash in their yearly routines, mixing old and new knowledge. What stands out most about medieval ash dressing is how elegant it was. Farmers took a waste product, something that would otherwise be swept aside, and turned it into a powerful tool for renewal. It reminds us that soil care does not always need to rely on costly supplies, and that sometimes the solutions to modern problems lie in the practices of the past. For those of us who study history, this is more than just a farming footnote. It is an example of how human cleverness, close watching of nature, and patience can restore what seemed lost. Today, whether you tend a full farm or a few raised beds, the principles of ash dressing remain within reach. By respecting the balance of your soil, working with natural materials, and understanding the science behind them, you can breathe new life into tired ground just as medieval farmers once did. The tools are simple, the cost is nothing, and the rewards, as history shows, can be huge. If stories like this make you curious and make you want to dig deeper into the forgotten skills that kept past generations alive, now is the perfect time to stay connected. Subscribe to In the Beginning for more deep dives into the clever, surprising, and sometimes mysterious ways our ancestors shaped the world around them. Share this with friends who value both history and hands-on knowledge. And together we can keep these timeless lessons alive for the next generation.